Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you had a fantastic New Year's Eve and a great Christmas and all of that. I know I did. And as we find ourselves in a brand new year, I've been thinking about some of the things that Delta Force needs to change if it wants to survive, at least for the rest of this year. And I say this from a point of love, because I have been having a lot of fun in Delta Force. I really enjoy the game, but I think there are certain things that just need to be improved if the game wants to stick around for the foreseeable future. So the game at this point has been out for almost a month, and I think a lot of us have identified many of those niggling frustrations that we have with the game that is maybe even causing some people to put it down entirely and walk away from it. Some of them are a bit more egregious than others, but I wanted to offer some solutions to how they could fix some of these problems so that overall we will end up with a better game. Guys, before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you do enjoy the content here on the channel. Plenty more to come on Delta Force, as well as Battlefield 6, 7, 2025, whatever that game ends up being called, that releases this year. And as always, guys, thank you so much for the support during 2024. Of course, you guys know I couldn't do this without you, so thank you so much for taking the time to watch my channel. Alright, so without further ado, let's just jump straight in here. So I think the number one thing on my mind, almost as soon as I started playing Delta Force, has to be the smoke spam. We have multiple operators in Delta Force that have smoke available. So we have one of the assault operators, D-Wolf, he's got a regular smoke grenade. When it comes to the support operators, Toxic, is she called Toxic? The Toxic lady, anyway, with the flying bugs, she's got a smoke grenade. Well, essentially a smoke grenade, it's like a gas grenade. But then, of course, it's Stinger, who is like the smoke master, because he has the largest diameter smoke grenade in the game. But then he's also got this smoke drone that puts out a huge cloud as if a steam train has just gone by. And on certain maps, this can get particularly crazy. I think the problem they're having with balancing this is, on some maps, such as trench lines, these smokes are actually really handy. If you want to get up and over the trench lines, you absolutely need this kind of smoke, especially the smoke drone. Laying down so much of that really facilitates you getting over those trench lines and into the enemy objectives, and certainly when we're talking about the attack defend mode. However, when we go on a much smaller map like Shafted, it's just completely out of control. How many times have you been in a corridor filled with smoke and people are just going prone on the ground and spamming into the smoke? I mean, this is not Counter-Strike. They have already put out a small nerf that reduced the radius or the diameter of all of the smoke grenades, but personally I couldn't really tell a difference. The smoke is as prevalent as it ever has been. So I think what they need to do here in order to address this is certainly reduce the amount of smoke, maybe even make it so the smoke drone is a little bit shorter, definitely less thick on the radius there, and possibly even increase the cooldown on it. And I would say that that actually goes for a lot of the operator abilities. There's just too many of them, too many people playing, it's too spammy, and if they increase all of the cooldowns, they will be a little bit more situational and special. To me, it sort of feels like you just spam out your abilities without much thought to it or prior planning. And that leads me smoothly into the next item on the list, Luna's Detection Arrow. So here we have a classic example of them putting an operator in a game based on the extraction mode, the operations mode, where it sort of makes sense to have an ability like this, or at least it's far less egregious, because you're only going to be spotting maybe one of the squad of players, maybe some AI players, some NPCs. But in Warfare, when you have 32 players on the enemy team and 32 teammates, and everybody's just constantly firing these detection arrows all over the map, like, you can't move or do anything without being spotted. And what's more, people can see you, like, through the walls. I know I'm getting kind of exasperated here, guys, but I just don't understand how they could put this in the game and think that this would be a good idea. And the worst part about it is that everybody realizes that if you spot somebody with one of these arrows and then your teammate gets a kill, that means you get an assist and a bunch of points. So that's going to get you higher up on the scoreboard. You're going to get to the cruise missile faster. You're going to get to the mortars faster. So everybody's playing Luna. Again, increase the cooldown of the detection arrow. I would say just outright remove it from the game. I think this really needs to be reworked. I don't think you should be able to see people through walls, because you can literally just aim at their head and pre-fire them. It's just silly. Maybe have everybody spotted on the minimap. That would be acceptable to me, or just give her an entirely new ability. Okay, next on the list we have head glitches. Who has not been victim to one of the most disgusting head glitches in this game where you basically can't even see the enemy, and with not only head glitches but also people peeking left and right and leaning around walls and random objects. A lot of the time you die in Delta Force, it feels like positioning is absolutely king in this game, and getting a good head glitch is really all that matters. And I think the problem with the game is that the bullets are coming out of the operator's head, whereas in other games like Battlefield 4 for example, they famously changed this so that bullets would now come out of the operator's chest, and therefore you actually had to expose a little bit more of your operator's body in able to shoot from behind a piece of cover, which really helped with the head glitching thing a lot there. Apparently Delta Force just didn't really learn anything from those past Battlefield games, so they've gone with the good old head glitch where you fire like lasers from your eyes. So this one has a really easy fix, like I've already said. Just make it so the bullets come out of your chest. I mean, I say it's easy in theory, maybe it's difficult for them to program that, but the solution is a simple one. Now the next one also goes hand in hand with the head glitching, and that is the lack of weapon spread in the game. So I really like, in general, the way that weapons act in Delta Force. Once you've realized how to tame a weapon, you can really get rid of a lot of the visual recoil, a lot of the actual recoil, and almost any weapon can now be turned into a laser beam. All you have to do is concentrate on giving it a lot of control, reduce the horizontal recoil, and any remaining vertical recoil can then simply be controlled by your mouse hand. Add some stability, and any weapon now becomes an absolute laser beam across the map. Again, another troubled area from Battlefield 2042. It always astounds me how many things Delta Force actually copied from Battlefield 2042, but they also copied a lot of the mistakes, which is weird because you'd think they would have actually learnt from what DICE and EA did wrong in that game. But just like adding the detection arrow for Luna, they didn't realize that was a bad idea. And the same is true here with the weapons having no spread at all and being laser beams across the battlefield. I really do think they need to introduce spread so that you have to burst fire the weapon for it to be at its maximum efficacy, at least out at range. Because right now, honestly, just some of the weapons are silly accurate. So my next thing I would love to see changed is the bad vehicle handling. The vehicle handling, especially with the helicopters, is just way too slow. And if we take tanks, for example, this was yet again another thing that was fixed in Battlefield 2042. The tanks were too slow in that game, and what happened is players started to camp way back far away from the flags and snipe enemy infantry players instead of actually getting in there, getting stuck in and going on the flags to help out their teams and to cap the objective. So what DICE actually did is they increased the movement speed of the tanks, and that really helped things in this regard. Tanks were then able to be a lot more aggressive, push forward without instantly dying. In Delta Force, the tanks are amazingly sluggish, and if you push anywhere near to the infantry players, you are 100% gonna get insta-gibbed by multiple engineers. So what you have to do then is just stay at the back of the map and just lob these artillery shells at enemy infantry. They don't really have a chance in hell of killing you. It's pretty much child's play. You know, I've done entire rounds staying alive in the tank. Nobody could kill me because the range of them is just so ridiculous. And this all comes down to the shoddy handling, in my opinion. For sure, the range and the damage of them maybe needs to be looked into as well. And then when it comes to the helicopters and the AA, I know they've said they're making changes in terms of the handling of the vehicles, so maybe that's going to count with the tanks there and hopefully the helicopters as well. But at the moment, the range of the AA tank honestly makes playing in a helicopter pretty much undoable. Like, if the AA driver has any amount of competency at all, you are just dead. I'm going to show you guys a couple of examples of this. I'm going for the enemy helicopter here, and I realize I'm taking damage, right? So I think, oh, I better go down and land. I land way, not even in my deployment, but way behind the deployment, because you can't actually see like where the out of bounds areas end and start. Lo and behold, though, I'm still taking tick damage here. So I jump in the helicopter so I can see when I die who killed me. And of course, it's the AA. And just look how far away the AA is on the cracked map here. He's on this hill where the AA always sits. He's in his deployment, so you can't even get there as a tanker or as an infantry engineer to kill the AA, and he's still able to hit me. Now, this is a particularly small map, and this obviously is just bad map design here. They haven't really thought through the AA versus helicopter minigame or the meta. But then if we take a look at Ascension, you can see that this AA is able to hit me pretty much in the skybox, and he is over 1,000 meters away, which is just absolutely bananas range. And what's more, he's actually doing pretty good damage as well. So just like with the weapons, they don't really have too much fall off range. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, the helicopters are super OP as well, and they need to be kept in check. And I do agree to some degree. The helicopter weapons are crazy powerful, like the rocket pods on the recon helicopter, super powerful. The anti-infantry pods on the attack helicopter, super powerful. The range of them, the range of the cannons, the range of the 30mm cannon on the attack heli, honestly, way too far. So in general, this whole meta, the AA versus the helis versus the infantry, all of these vehicles versus the tanks, this all needs to be, quite frankly, totally overhauled. And it's pretty apparent to me that what Team Jade have done here is they've said, okay, we need vehicles in the game so that we can sort of tick the Battlefield box there and say, okay, we've got all the vehicles that Battlefield has, but they haven't put in the due diligence to actually balance the meta, or they simply don't have the know-how. So, you know, I think they really do need to go and revisit this and make some pretty big changes. So if we just come back to the operators for a moment here, it's also apparent to me that a lot of the operator picks are just pretty bad. I don't know how you all feel, but for me, there are certain operators that I will just never pick over the other one. So we've got two of each operator. I would say the support operators and the assault operators are pretty good. But when it comes to, for example, the recon operators, there is just no way that I'm going to pick Hatclaw over Luna. I mean, the detection arrow on Luna is just way too overpowered. It gives you way too much score, so many assists, compared to Hatclaw's ability, which basically just gives you a line on the ground that you then have to follow in order to find the closest enemy. And it's almost this weird minigame where if you actually put any brain power into following that line, you're probably going to die anyway, right? Because when you're playing Warfare, you have to keep your wits about you all the time. There are enemies in all directions, on all of the different head glitches. You're looking at your minimap. You really can't focus with any brain power, at least I can't, on looking at this little line on the ground. Now, again, if we're playing in operations mode, in the extraction mode, it makes more sense. There are fewer players, and you're going to have a beeline straight to the closest enemy player. That is a massive advantage. In Warfare mode, not really so much. So, you know, to me, it's obvious that some of the operators have been designed around one of the game modes and then just put in the other one regardless, but they don't really work there. And then when it comes down to a lot of the operator class gadgetry, so if we take the engineers, for example, much of it is just trash. So the only worthwhile picks to me as an engineer is to take the RPG, basically so you can take out helicopters and you can take out tanks, the Stingers for anti-air, and then the Javelin for specifically anti-tank. All the other three gadgets are terrible picks. You get a mine, which does 60 damage, but you only get one of them. You get an EMP grenade launcher, and I haven't seen anybody using this at all. It's so bad. Like, it doesn't do any damage to vehicles. It just puts them out of action for a little bit of time, as far as I understand it. Maybe I'm missing a trick with that, so by all means, let me know down below if it happens to be your favorite gadget there. And then you've also got this little auto turret that's supposed to be anti-air, and it protects you from enemy helicopters. But all three of those options are just terrible picks compared to the main three launchers in the game. Now, these sorts of gadgets work in Battlefield because in Battlefield you have two different picks, right? You can choose your launcher, but then you can also choose an additional piece of gear, and that would be like your EMP launcher, your mines, all of that sort of stuff that would go alongside the launcher. But here, the game is asking you to choose either a launcher or much less effective gear, and it's just a no-brainer. There's no point in it even being in the game, in my opinion. And then, last but not least here, and this actually may be one of the most annoying, frustrating things in the game for every single player, is the insane amount of screen spam that you get after you finish a round, when you log into the game, progression screens, you name it, right? Whenever you finish a round, there's like 5 different screens you've got to go through. Even if you quit the round and you want to get back to the menu and re-queue, you still got to go through those screens. Every time you log into the game, you get a splash screen telling you to go and buy a skin in the store, even if you don't want to. And then when it comes down to the weekly missions and all of the little quests to get you your free skins and your goodies and your weapon XP boosters, you have to go and trawl through so many screens just to make sure that you've got everything covered. And if you don't have any of those flashing exclamation marks, sometimes you can't remember, like, have I completed this particular task? Have I not completed it? Do I even need to be going and checking that tab? And I find myself going and checking through each and every one of them, thinking, oh, maybe I still have something that's outstanding that I haven't finished yet. But lo and behold, I've actually already done it. So I would really appreciate it if the team could, at the very least, if not reduce a lot of this spam, they could put some sort of a completion marker on top of the little tile that displays that particular event, showing whether you've completed it or not, so you don't have to click in every single one to check if you've done it. So, there you go, guys. Those are some of my main gripes with the game after having played it for about a month or so. If you could pick anything that you would like to change with the game, what would it be? Have I mentioned it here in the video, or did I leave some stuff out? Let me know down below. As always, if you did enjoy the video, leave a like down below, subscribe for more Delta Force, and I'll see you guys in the next one.